never thought that, at 62 years old, after 38 years of marriage, I would find myself standing in front of a mirror, tears streaming down my face, asking who I was and what I had become. But that's exactly where I am right now, and I need to tell you this story because I don't know what to do anymore. My name is Margaret, and I live in a quiet suburb of Denver, Colorado. For almost 4 decades, I've been the perfect wife, the dedicated mother, the pillar of our community. My husband, Robert, is a retired engineer, respected by everyone, the kind of man who never raised his voice, never forgot an anniversary, and always provided for our family. We have 3 grown children, 5 grandchildren, and a life that from the outside looks like the American dream. But here's what no one tells you about perfect marriages. Sometimes they're so perfect that there's no room left for passion, for desire, for feeling truly alive. It all started 6 months ago at a charity event at our local community center. I had volunteered to help organize a fundraiser for the public library, something I've done dozens of times before. That's where I met Daniel. He was 55, a widower who had moved to Denver from Boston after losing his wife to cancer 2 years earlier. He was helping set up the audio equipment, and when our eyes met across that crowded room, something inside me woke up after decades of sleep. Before I go any further, I need you to understand something. If you're watching this and you can relate to what I'm feeling, please click that subscribe button right now. This channel is growing, and we're almost at 5,000 subscribers. Your subscription means the world to me because sharing these stories, these real experiences, helps all of us feel less alone. Just click on that red subscribe button below this video. Daniel wasn't conventionally handsome, not in the way Robert was when we were young, but there was something in his eyes, a depth of understanding, a sadness mixed with hope that resonated with something buried deep inside me. We started talking that evening, just casual conversation about books, about the library, about life in Denver. He made me laugh in a way I hadn't laughed in years. Not the polite chuckle I gave Robert when he told his rehearsed jokes at dinner parties, but real, genuine laughter that came from somewhere deep in my chest. After that night, I started seeing Daniel at every volunteer meeting. We would arrive early, stay late, finding excuses to be in the same room. Our conversations grew longer, more personal. He told me about his wife, about the pain of watching her fade away, about the loneliness that consumed him afterward. I told him things I had never told anyone, not even my closest friends. I told him about the emptiness I felt in my marriage, about how Robert and I had become roommates rather than lovers, about how I couldn't remember the last time my husband had looked at me with genuine desire in his eyes. 3 months into our friendship, Daniel asked me to have coffee with him. Just coffee, he said. Nothing inappropriate. We met at a small cafe on the outskirts of town, far from our neighborhood, far from anyone who might know us. As I sat across from him in that dimly lit corner booth, my heart was racing in a way it hadn't since I was a teenager. We talked for 3 hours. About dreams we had abandoned, about regrets, about the versions of ourselves we had lost along the way to becoming responsible adults. And then he reached across the table and touched my hand. It was such a simple gesture, nothing more than his fingers brushing against mine, but I felt electricity surge through my entire body. I pulled my hand away, terrified of what I was feeling, terrified of what it meant. I made an excuse and left, driving home in tears, my hands shaking on the steering wheel. If you're still with me, if this story is resonating with you, please take a second to hit that subscribe button. We're working hard to reach 5,000 subscribers, and every single subscription helps us build this community of people sharing real, honest stories. Don't forget to click subscribe. That night, I lay in bed next to Robert, listening to him snore softly, and I felt like a stranger in my own life. This man beside me had been my companion for 38 years. We had built a life together, raised children, survived financial struggles, celebrated victories. But when was the last time he had touched me with passion? When was the last time he had really seen me? Not just as his wife, but as a woman with desires and dreams of her own? I tried to stay away from Daniel. I really did. I stopped volunteering at the library, made excuses when the community center called. But he started texting me, simple messages at first. I miss our conversations. Hope you're doing well. Thinking about you. Each message felt like a secret, like a small rebellion against the life I had built. 2 weeks later, I broke down and texted him back. We started meeting again, always in places where we wouldn't be recognized. Coffee shops in neighboring towns, a park 30 miles away, a bookstore in Boulder. With each meeting, the connection between us grew stronger, more undeniable. We talked about everything and nothing. He made me feel young again, not in a superficial way, but in the way he looked at me, in how he listened when I spoke, in how he seemed genuinely interested in my thoughts and opinions. One afternoon, we were sitting in his car in an empty parking lot, rain drumming against the windshield, and he told me he was falling in love with me. The words hung in the air between us, dangerous and beautiful. I should have gotten out of that car right then. I should have gone home to my husband, confessed everything, worked on fixing my marriage. But instead, I looked into Daniel's eyes and whispered, "I'm falling in love with you too." We kissed for the first time that day. It was gentle at first, tentative, both of us aware of the line we were crossing. But then it deepened, became more urgent, and for the first time in decades, I felt truly desired. I felt like a woman, not just a wife or a mother or a grandmother. I felt alive. Your support means everything to this channel. If you're finding value in these honest stories, please click that subscribe button now. We're on our way to 5,000 subscribers, and you can be part of that milestone. Just one click on the subscribe button below. The affair, if that's what we're calling it, continued for the next 3 months. We never crossed the final line, never went to a hotel room or to his house. But we kissed. We held each other. We shared an emotional intimacy that felt more profound than anything physical. Every time I was with him, I felt like I was betraying Robert. But every time I was with Robert, I felt like I was betraying myself. My daughter Emily started noticing changes in me. She commented that I seemed happier, that I was smiling more, dressing differently. I had started wearing makeup again, choosing clothes that made me feel attractive instead of just comfortable. I joined a gym, started taking care of myself in ways I hadn't in years. On the surface, it looked like a positive transformation. But underneath, I was drowning in guilt. Robert noticed too, but not in the way Emily did. He made a comment one evening about how I seemed distracted, about how I was always on my phone. I brushed it off, said I was just keeping up with friends on social media. But the truth was, I was constantly texting Daniel, sharing my day with him, counting down the hours until I could see him again. The guilt was eating me alive. I would lie in bed at night, Robert's arm draped over me in his sleep, and tears would stream down my face. This man had never cheated on me, never lied to me, never done anything to deserve this betrayal. He was a good man, a faithful husband, a loving father. But somehow that made it worse. If he had been cruel or neglectful, I could have justified my actions, but his only crime was being steady, reliable, and maybe a little boring. Then came the evening that changed everything. Robert came home from his weekly poker game early. I was in the living room texting Daniel, and I didn't hear him come in. He walked up behind me and saw Daniel's name on my phone screen, saw the heart emoji I had started putting next to his messages. The look on Robert's face when I turned around will haunt me for the rest of my life. He didn't yell. That would have been easier. Instead, he just stood there, looking at me with confusion and pain in his eyes, and asked quietly, "Who is Daniel?" Please, if you're invested in this story, help our channel grow by clicking subscribe. We're building a community here, working toward 5,000 subscribers, and your support makes all the difference. Click that subscribe button right now. I couldn't lie to him, not with him looking at me like that. So I told him everything. About meeting Daniel at the community center, about our conversations, our meetings, our emotional connection. I told him we had never slept together, that it had never gone that far, but I could see in his eyes that it didn't matter. The betrayal was complete regardless of whether we had crossed that physical line. Robert sat down on the couch, his face in his hands, and I watched 38 years of marriage crumble around us. When he finally looked up, his eyes were red, and he asked me the question I had been dreading. "Do you love him?" I wanted to say no. I wanted to tell Robert that it was just a midlife crisis, a moment of insanity, that Daniel meant nothing to me. But I couldn't lie anymore. So I said the words that would shatter everything. I think I do. But I love you too. He laughed then, a bitter, broken sound that cut through me like a knife. You can't love both of us, Margaret. That's not how love works. He stood up, walked to our bedroom, and closed the door. I heard the lock click, and I knew that sound was the end of something that had taken us decades to build. The next few days were a nightmare. Robert moved into our guest bedroom. Our children called, confused and worried because apparently Robert had called our oldest son and told him we were having problems. Emily came over, demanding to know what was going on. I couldn't tell her the truth, couldn't bear to see the disappointment in her eyes. So I said we were going through a rough patch, that we needed some time to work things out. But here's where it gets even more complicated. During all of this chaos, Daniel called me and I couldn't bring myself to answer. He texted, asking if I was okay, saying he was worried about me. And something inside me broke. Because in that moment, I realized that Daniel was offering me passion, excitement, a feeling of being alive. But he wasn't offering me 38 years of shared history. He wasn't offering me the memories of raising children together, of surviving my mother's death, of building a home from nothing. If you're still watching, thank you for being here. Please subscribe to help us reach our goal of 5,000 subscribers. Your subscription supports this channel and helps us create more content. Just click subscribe below. Robert and I started seeing a marriage counselor. Dr. Peterson was a woman in her 50s who had kind eyes and a no-nonsense approach. In our first session, she asked us both what we wanted. Robert said he wanted to save our marriage. I said I didn't know what I wanted anymore. The sessions were brutal. Robert talked about feeling like he had failed me, about wondering where he had gone wrong. He cried, this strong man who never showed emotion, sobbed in that therapist's office and asked me what he could have done differently. And the truth was, he hadn't done anything wrong. He had been exactly who he always was. The problem was that I had changed, or maybe I had finally stopped pretending to be someone I wasn't. I stopped seeing Daniel. I told him we couldn't continue, that I needed to figure out my marriage. He was understanding, said he would wait for me, that he would be there if I decided to leave Robert. But he also said something that's been haunting me ever since. Margaret, you deserve to be happy. Not content, not comfortable, but truly happy. Don't settle for less just because it's easier. In counseling, Dr. Peterson asked me to do an exercise. She told me to imagine two futures. In one, I stayed with Robert, worked on our marriage, tried to rebuild what we had. In the other, I left, started over with Daniel, embraced this new feeling of being alive. She asked me which future scared me more. I realized they both terrified me equally. Staying meant potentially giving up the most intense connection I had felt in decades. Leaving meant abandoning a man who had been faithful to me, destroying our family, hurting our children and grandchildren, becoming the villain in everyone's story. Robert started making changes. He took me on dates, planned romantic dinners, told me he wanted to court me again like we were young. He bought me flowers, wrote me letters, did everything the marriage books and therapists recommend, and it was sweet, it really was. But there was a desperation to it that broke my heart. He was trying so hard to be someone he wasn't, to give me something he didn't naturally possess. Meanwhile, Daniel sent me a letter. A real handwritten letter delivered to the P.O. box I had rented without telling anyone. In it, he wrote about how meeting me had brought him back to life after years of grief. He wrote about how he understood I had a whole life with Robert, a history he could never compete with. But he also wrote that he believed we had something rare, something worth fighting for. He ended the letter by saying he would wait for me, but not forever. Make sure you're subscribed to this channel so you don't miss what happens next. We're almost at 5,000 subscribers, and every subscription helps us keep sharing these real stories. Click that subscribe button now. Last week, Emily figured out what was going on. She found some old text messages on my iPad that I had forgotten to delete. She came to my house, and for the first time since she was a teenager, she screamed at me. She called me selfish, said I was destroying our family, asked me how I could do this to her father. I had no defense because everything she said was true. But then she said something that made me think. Through her tears, she said, "Mom, I watched you disappear over the years. You stopped painting, stopped singing, stopped being the person you were. Dad didn't do that to you, but somehow being with him made you smaller. And I hate you for cheating, but part of me understands why you did it. That conversation with Emily opened something in me. Because she was right. I had made myself smaller to fit into the life Robert and I had built. Not because he demanded it, but because that's what I thought I was supposed to do. I had sacrificed pieces of myself year after year until I couldn't recognize who I was anymore. And Daniel, for all the chaos he had brought into my life, had reminded me of the woman I used to be. Robert and I had another session with Dr. Peterson yesterday. She asked us both if we still wanted to be married. Robert said yes immediately. I hesitated. And in that hesitation, everything changed. Robert saw it, the therapist saw it, and I saw it reflected in their eyes. I wasn't sure anymore. Dr. Peterson asked me what I was afraid of. I told her I was afraid of hurting Robert, of destroying my family, of being judged by everyone I know. But I was also afraid of waking up at 75 and realizing I had spent the last 13 years of my life living for everyone else but myself. I was afraid of the resentment that was already growing in my heart. The feeling that I was sacrificing my happiness to maintain everyone else's comfort. And here's where I am now. Robert has given me an ultimatum. He says he loves me, that he's willing to forgive everything, but I need to choose, him or Daniel, our life together or this new possibility. He says he can't keep living in this limbo, that I need to decide what I want. If this story has touched you in any way, please subscribe to our channel. We're building something special here, a community where people can share real stories without judgment. Help us reach 5,000 subscribers by clicking that subscribe button. Daniel has also asked me to make a choice. He told me yesterday that he's been offered a job in Seattle, that he needs to know if I'm coming with him or if he should go alone. He says he loves me, that he believes we could have something beautiful together, but he can't keep waiting while I figure out my marriage. So now I'm standing at this crossroads at 62 years old, an age when most people have everything figured out. But I don't. I don't know if what I feel for Daniel is real love or just the excitement of something new. I don't know if staying with Robert is noble or cowardly. I don't know if I'm being selfish or finally putting myself first after decades of putting everyone else ahead of me. My children are split. Emily thinks I should stay with Robert, work on my marriage, remember my vows. But my son Michael told me something surprising last week. He said, "Mom, I love Dad, but I want you to be happy. Really happy. Not just going through the motions." My youngest, Sarah, won't talk to me at all. I think about the life I would have if I stayed with Robert. It would be comfortable, familiar, respected by our community. We would grow old together, play with our grandchildren, maintain the image we've built. But would I ever stop wondering what could have been? Would I ever stop resenting him for being the reason I gave up my chance at passion? But I also think about the life I would have if I left. Starting over at 62, moving to Seattle, building something new with Daniel. It's terrifying and exhilarating at the same time. But what if the magic between Daniel and me only exists because it's forbidden? What if the reality of daily life together destroys what we have? What if I'm throwing away 38 years of marriage for something that will burn out in 6 months? Here's what keeps me up at night. Robert is a good man. He doesn't deserve this pain. But does that mean I have to sacrifice my happiness for the rest of my life? And Daniel offers me something I've been missing, but is that enough to build a life on? And more than either of them, what about me? What do I want? What do I deserve? Before you leave this video, I need your help. Please click that subscribe button and help us reach 5,000 subscribers. Your support means everything, and it only takes 1 second to subscribe. Dr. Peterson gave me homework. She told me to write 2 letters, one to Robert and one to Daniel, explaining my decision. She said I didn't have to send them, but writing them would help clarify what I actually want. I've tried to write those letters a dozen times, and I can't finish either one. The truth is, there's no perfect answer here. Either choice will hurt people I care about. Either choice will cost me something important. If I stay with Robert, I'm choosing security and history over passion and possibility. If I go with Daniel, I'm choosing myself over everyone else, and I don't know if I'm strong enough to live with that guilt. Last night, Robert came to me and said something that broke me all over again. He said, "Margaret, I've been thinking. Maybe I have been taking you for granted. Maybe I did stop seeing you as a woman and started seeing you just as my wife, but I'm 64 years old and I don't know how to be someone else. I don't know how to be the passionate, exciting man you seem to want. I can only be me. And if that's not enough, then maybe you should go. The way he said it, with such sadness and resignation, made me realize that staying with him out of guilt would destroy both of us. He would spend the rest of his life trying to be someone he's not, and I would spend the rest of mine resenting him for not being Daniel. But here's the thing that nobody tells you about affairs, about falling in love with someone new when you're already married. It's not just about choosing between two men. It's about choosing between two versions of yourself. The version that stays is responsible, considers everyone else's feelings, maintains stability and respectability. The version that leaves is selfish, follows her heart, embraces the unknown. I have 3 days to make my decision. Daniel leaves for Seattle on Friday, and Robert has said if I haven't decided by then, he's filing for divorce anyway. He says he can't keep living like this, in this state of uncertainty, and I don't blame him. So here I am, asking you, whoever is watching this, whoever has listened to my story, what would you do in my place? Would you choose the security of 38 years of marriage, or the possibility of finally feeling alive again? Would you stay for your children, your grandchildren, your community, or would you, for once in your life, choose yourself? Please leave your thoughts in the comments below. I need to hear from people who aren't emotionally involved in this situation. I need perspective, wisdom, anything that might help me see clearly. And please, before you go, click that subscribe button. We're so close to 5,000 subscribers, and your support helps us keep creating this space for honest, real stories. Subscribe now and be part of this community. I'll update you soon on what I decide. But right now, in this moment, I honestly don't know what I'm going to do. And that terrifies me more than anything else.